SMS Blücher was the last armored cruiser built by the German Empire. She was designed to match what German intelligence incorrectly believed to be the specifications of the British Invincible-class battle cruisers. Blücher was larger than preceding armored cruisers and carried more heavy guns, but was unable to match the size and armament of the battle cruisers which replaced armored cruisers in the British Royal Navy and German Imperial Navy. The ship was named after the Prussian Field Marshal Gebhard von Blücher, the commander of Prussian forces at the Battle of Waterloo in 1815. Blücher was built at the Kaiserliche Werft shipyard in Kiel between 1907 and 1909, and commissioned on 1 October 1909. The ship served in the I Scouting Group for most of her career, including the early portion of World War I. She took part in the operation to bombard Yarmouth and the raid on Scarborough, Hartlepool and Whitby in 1914. At the Battle of Dogger Bank on 24 January 1915, Blücher was slowed significantly after being hit by gunfire from the British battle cruiser squadron under the command of Vice Admiral David Beatty. Rear Admiral Franz von Hipper, the commander of the German squadron, decided to abandon Blücher to the pursuing enemy ships in order to save his more valuable battle cruisers. Under heavy fire from the British ships, she was sunk, and British destroyers began recovering the survivors. However, the destroyers withdrew when a German Zeppelin began bombing them, mistaking the sinking Blücher for a British battle cruiser. The number of casualties is unknown, with figures ranging from 747 to around 1,000. Blücher was the only warship lost during the battle. Design. German armored cruisers, referred to as Großcruiser, were designed for several tasks. The ships were designed to engage the reconnaissance forces of rival navies, as well as fight in the line of battle. The earliest armored cruiser, First Bismarck, was rushed through production specifically to be deployed to China to assist in the suppression of the Boxer Rebellion in 1900. Subsequent armored cruisers, with the exception of the two Scharnhorst-class ships, served with the fleet in the reconnaissance force. On 26 May 1906, the Reichstag authorized funds for Blücher, along with the first two Nassau-class battleships. Though the ship would be much larger and more powerful than previous armored cruisers, Blücher retained that designation in an attempt to conceal its more powerful nature. The ship was ordered under the provisional name E. Her design was influenced by the need to match the armored cruisers which Britain was known to be building at the time. The Germans expected these new British ships to be armed with 6 or 8 9.2-inch guns. In response, the German Navy approved a design with 12 21 cm guns in 6 twin turrets. This was significantly more firepower than that of the previous Scharnhorst-class German armored cruisers, which only carried 8 21 cm guns. 1 week after the final decision was made to authorize construction of Blücher, the German naval attaché obtained the actual details of the new British ships, called the Invincible class. In fact, HMS Invincible carried 8 30.5 cm guns of the same type mounted on battleships. It was soon recognized that these ships were a new type of warship, which eventually came to be classified as the battle cruiser. When the details of the Invincible class came to light, it was too late to redesign Blücher, and there were no funds for a redesign. So work proceeded as scheduled. Blücher was therefore arguably obsolete even before her construction started, and was rapidly surpassed by the German Navy's battle cruisers, of which the first was ordered in 1907. Despite this, Blücher was typically deployed with the German battle cruiser squadron. The ship ultimately cost the German government 28,532,000 gold marks. General characteristics: Blücher was 161.1 meters long at the waterline and 161.8 meters long overall. The ship had a beam of 24.5 meters, and with the anti-torpedo nets mounted along the sides of the ship, the beam increased to 25.62 meters. Blücher had a draft of 8.84 meters forward, but slightly less aft, at 8.56 meters. The ship displaced 15,842 t at her designed weight, and up to 17,500 t at maximum displacement. Her hull was constructed with both transverse and longitudinal steel frames, and she had 13 watertight compartments and a double bottom that ran for approximately 65% of the length of the hull. Documents from the German Naval Archives generally indicate satisfaction with Blücher's minor pitch and gentle motion at sea. However, she suffered from severe roll, and with the rudder hard over, she heeled over up to 10 degrees from the vertical and lost up to 55% of her speed. Blücher's metacentric height was 1.63 meters. The ship had a standard crew of 41 officers and 812 enlisted men, with an additional 14 officers and 62 sailors when she served as a squadron flagship. She carried a number of smaller vessels, including 2 picket boats, 3 barges, 2 launches, 2 yawls, and 1 dinghy. Propulsion. Blücher was equipped with 3 vertical 4-cylinder triple-expansion engines. Each engine drove a propeller, the center screw being 5.3 meters in diameter, while the outer 2 screws were slightly larger, at 5.6 meters in diameter. The ship had a single rudder with which to steer. The 3 engines were segregated in individual engine rooms. With 6 marine-type double boilers per room, the ship contained a total of 18 coal-fired boilers. The ship had a designed maximum speed of 24.5 knots, but during her trials, she achieved 25.4 knots. At a cruising speed of 12 knots, Blücher could steam for 6,600 nautical miles. At a speed of 18 knots, her range was cut down to 3,250 nmi. The ship was designed to carry 900 t of coal, though voids in the hull could be used to expand the fuel supply to up to 2,510 t of coal. Electrical power for the ship was supplied by 6 turbo generators that provided up to 1,000 kilowatts, rated at 225 volts. The highest power ever achieved by a reciprocating engine warship was the 37,799 indicated horsepower produced by Blücher on her trials in 1909. Armament. Blücher was equipped with 12 21 cm SKL 45 quick-firing guns in 6 twin turrets, 1 pair fore and 1 pair aft, and 2 pairs in wing turrets on either side of the superstructure. The guns were supplied with a total of 1,020 shells, or 85 rounds per gun. Each shell weighed 108 kilograms, and was 61 centimeters in length. The guns could be depressed to -5 degrees and elevated to 30 degrees, providing a maximum range of 19,100 meters. Their rate of fire was 4 to 5 rounds per minute. The ship had a secondary battery of 8 15 cm quick-firing guns mounted in MPLC-06 casemates, 4 centered amidships on either side of the vessel. These guns could engage targets out to 13,500 meters. They were supplied with 1320 rounds, for 165 shells per gun, and had a sustained rate of fire of 5 to 7 rounds per minute. The shells were 45.3 kilograms, and were loaded with a 13.7 kilograms RPC 12 propellant charge in a brass cartridge. The guns fired at a muzzle velocity of 835 meters per second, and were expected to fire around 1,400 shells before they needed to be replaced. Blücher was also armed with 16 8.8 cm SKL 45 quick-firing guns, placed in both casemates and pivot mounts. 4 of these guns were mounted in casemates near the bridge, 4 in casemates in the bow, another 4 in casemates at the stern, and the remaining 4 were mounted in pivot mounts in the rear superstructure. They were supplied with a total of 3,200 rounds, or 200 shells per gun, and could fire at a rate of 15 shells per minute. Their high explosive shells weighed 10 kilograms, and were loaded with a 3 kilograms RPC 12 propellant charge. These guns had a life expectancy of around 7,000 rounds. The guns had a maximum range of 10,700 meters. Blücher was also equipped with 4 45 cm torpedo tubes. One was placed in the bow, one in the stern, and the other two were placed on the broadside, all below the waterline. The ship carried a total of 11 torpedoes. The torpedoes carried a 110 kg warhead and had 2 speed settings, which affected the range. At 32 knots, the weapon had a range of 2,000 meters, and at 36 knots, the range was reduced to 1,500 meters. Armor. As with other German capital ships of the period, Blücher was equipped with Krupp cemented armor. The armored deck was between 5 to 7 centimeters in thickness. More important areas of the ship were protected with thicker armor, while less critical portions of the deck used the thinner armor. The armored belt was 18 centimeters thick in the central portion of the ship, where machinery, ammunition magazines, and other vitals were located, and tapered to 8 centimeters in less important areas of the hull. The belt tapered down to 0 at either end of the ship. Behind the entire length of the belt armor was an additional 3 centimeters of teak. The armored belt was supplemented by a 3.5 cm torpedo bulkhead, though this only ran between the forward and rear centerline gun turrets. The forward conning tower was the most heavily armored part of the ship. Its sides were 25 centimeters thick and it had a roof that was 8 centimeters thick. The rear conning tower was significantly less well armored, with a roof that was 3 centimeters thick and sides that were only 14 centimeters thick. The central citadel of the ship was protected by 16 centimeters armor. The main battery turrets were 8 centimeters thick in their roofs, and had 18 centimeters sides. The 15 centimeters turret casemates were protected by 14 centimeters of armor.